Good afternoon, Bales, distinguished guests and friends. I am delighted to be speaking at your special event and at your historic and beautiful farm. I'm sorry I can't be with you, Bales, and with your friends, but I send my warm greetings to you all from New York. Yulgilbar is indeed historic. It was Sam Horden, previous owner of Yulgilbar, who helped to first introduce the great Santa Gertrudis breed to Australia, bringing them from America. I also hear that Yulgilbar's Santa Gertrudis stud is the third oldest in Australia and the largest in New South Wales. Congratulations to Sarah, Bales and the Myer family, and best wishes to the Yulgilbar team. From shares and properties to then two properties, spreading from the Pilbara and dating back to the second half of the 1800s, our family too has a continuous history in the cattle business. I loved my early life growing up on our then two stations in the then remote, still rugged and hot Pilbara. Goodness, we have seen changes since I used to scramble up windmills with tools for my father. Today, I should talk to you about the crucial factors of keeping internationally cost competitive, given Australia must export large percentages of its agricultural production. Factors deterring investment in Australian agriculture: the escalation of government red tape, the need for investment in stations and where appropriate farms to add practical agri-tech so that Australia's agricultural sector can prosper into the future and be able to supply the growing needs of our Asian neighbours as well as ourselves. As you may be aware, currently Australia needs to export 2/3 of our beef. So for our cattle industry to grow, we need to keep internationally cost competitive and develop more overseas markets, and similarly for other sectors of our agricultural industries. We need to listen to what our customer wants, including fresh beef and offal. Accordingly, we confirmed recently that Hancock has entered into a strategic cooperation agreement with ASO for the supply of beef cattle to China. ASO is an entity jointly formed by Sino-Australia Modern Industry Park, New Hope Group, Zhejiang Seaport Group, and Harvest Fund to develop a cattle receiving and processing facility on Jintang Island, China. Jintang Island is located off the coast of Ningbo in China's warmer south and Greater Shanghai area, and has a population of more than 200 million people within a 200-kilometre radius of the island. A huge growth opportunity for Australian agriculture. The Jintang Island facility will have a capacity of 150,000 head per annum, with the potential to expand that capacity up to 300,000 head per annum in the future, and potentially more as growth allows. Australians demand access to fresh beef. That is, we want fresh meat in our butchers or supermarkets. We go to the shops every few days to buy our steak, sausages, mince, beef cheeks, liver, and delicious Aussie roast meats. We might cook it that night or the next couple of nights, but primarily choose to buy it fresh. We in turn need to listen to our customers wanting fresh beef and offal. As Asia grows, Australia will grow, provided we listen to our markets and our governments understand the need to make our country attractive to investment and significantly lessen their red tape and taxation burdens on businesses to enable Australian agriculture to be internationally cost competitive. By 2050, Asia's middle class alone is forecast to grow to over 3 billion people. That's 3 billion people right on our doorstep, who will increase demand for protein, goods and services. We are blessed to be located close to some of the world's biggest and fastest growing economies. Across all of our stations, we are undergoing a technology transformation. We have introduced this technology to our Hancock station successfully and are now, with the support of our minority partners, rolling this out across Kidman too. We are rolling out the digitalized UHF system, walkover weighing systems and solar pumps, as well as hydraulic lifts, improved hydraulic weaner cradles with head supports, plus additional water facilities and more. The digitalized UHF system enables clear and quick and widespread communication from anywhere on the property to anywhere in Australia or overseas through the use of a handheld device. It is currently used in the mining industry and by our defence forces. The digitalized UHF devices enable private and group phone calls, text messages, brief emails, and can transmit emergency notices so they can be responded to quickly throughout the station, improving staff safety and enabling greater efficiency for managers. Another major technology we're rolling out is walkover weighing, an innovative self-mustering technology which improves animal welfare through reducing the need for mustering or remustering cattle, leaving the cattle more relaxed and able to eat and drink when they need. For those who don't know, walkover scales are fitted near a water point and record the weight of the cattle that walk over it. The weight of each animal will indicate the most appropriate destination for it, and a corresponding gate will open, leading it into a paddock if underweight, or leave the cow in the yards if ready for market. Running on solar power, this cutting-edge self-mustering technology will assist our stations with management of cattle in the paddocks where introduced, eliminating guesswork and repeat musterings for timely marketing, and give better ability to predict when trucks will be required to send cattle to market. Solar pumps are also very important, especially in our north, making critical daily water more reliable for our cattle and saving the risk for station employees of climbing windmills, which I remember so well from my childhood. A technology we plan to adapt from our usage in the mining sector is the use of drones. Drones are able to observe, photograph and film in real time and high-resolution things such as dam and river levels, fences, fires, floods, cattle, movements, station and other operations. They are also able to monitor tanks, troughs, priority gateways, lick supplement checks, fence lines and the pasture. The two types of drones we trialled and are rolling out include a beyond the line of sight UAV and a multi-rotor helicopter-style drone. The beyond the line of sight drone, as its name implies, is able to fly beyond a human's visual line of sight, enabling it to reach the farmost corners of a station with its multispectral cameras. It is also able to carry and transport by air items weighing up to 4 kilograms, allowing for items such as tools, emergency supplies and medical needs, such as EpiPens, to be quickly and easily transported around the station. The multi-rotor drone we also trialled has many of the same features, though travelling less distance and less fast, and is able to conduct many of the same tasks, but is capable of carrying more, up to 6 kilograms. More research is needed into optimum grain feeding for different types of cattle and optimum aging, whether more aging, be that wet or dry, could lessen the time and expense of expensive grain feeding. Better treatments to lessen stock pain and make cattle births more safe, studies to support the expense of shading in parts of birthing paddocks and elsewhere to encourage stations and farms in hot areas to do more shading. At Bannister Downs, our ethical dairy partnership in Northcliffe, West Australia, we are leading the way with our innovative and high-tech practices. Bannister's soon-to-be-completed new creamery facility will be open to the public and will see cows milked on a voluntary basis in a robotic system designed to minimise herd stress and maximise cow comfort, a first in West Australia. However, this is only part of the story. What can't be overlooked is government, in particular its red tape, compliance and other time-consuming and expensive burdens, discouraging the investment agriculture needs to stay competitive in Australia and consequently limiting the dollars available for investment in advanced technology for stations and farms. Let us look at some examples to illustrate just how much our cattle industry is lagging behind others, such as Brazil. Or to put it another way, what an exciting future our agricultural industry could have with smaller government and less red tape. Both Brazil and Australia are the largest two countries in the southern hemisphere with similar land masses. Australia at 7.69 million square kilometres and Brazil just a little larger. Please ask yourself, how many head of beef cattle does Brazil have? And how many head of cattle do you think Australia has? The answer is astonishing. Approximately, Brazil currently has more than 210 million head of beef cattle, compared to Australia's approximately 23 million, declining in recent years. That's right. Brazil, a country with a similar landmass, has a cattle industry nearly 10 times bigger than Australia's. Let's look at a further comparison, that between West Australia and Queensland. Queensland, in long-serving former Premier Sir Joh Bjelke-Petersen's time, welcomed investment in business, and a thriving cattle industry was built up. Today, according to Meat and Livestock Australia's 2015 figures, Queensland has a herd size of approximately 11.3 million. And what about West Australia, with its much larger land area? Would you think we'd have more cattle than Queensland? Well, regrettably we don't. Indeed, we have far less, despite our much larger land size, a tiny approximately 2.4 million cattle. Take just one example of government regulation in West Australia that acts to prevent our industry from developing. Many of you would know of the Fitzroy River in the Kimberleys in West Australia. Across the average wet season, approximately 7,000 gigalitres of water is wasted as it uselessly flows into the ocean. Now, 7,000 gigalitres of water can be hard to put into perspective, but think of it this way. Every year, 14 times the amount of water in the huge Sydney Harbour flows through the Fitzroy, past many stations, out, unused into the ocean. As it stands in 2017, the government only allows one water licence to access water from the Fitzroy River. This leaves approximately 99.9991% of the water to run out uselessly into the Indian Ocean. We all know that water is absolutely essential for cattle and to grow cattle numbers. Another reason why utilising fresh, clean water from the Fitzroy River and other flowing rivers is a good idea is that it would be better for cattle. Stagnant, unfenced dam water, which cattle often drink, can be dirty and contaminated, containing diseases such as E. coli and Giardia, causing illness and deaths. According to American and Canadian research, cattle could also put on between 15 and 28% more weight over a year just by drinking clean water. In short, if the government allowed us to tap into this and other huge wasted good water sources, we would be able to increase our cattle numbers. And just imagine the benefit to all the related industries that depend upon agriculture. I'm not the only one pointing out that red tape and inefficient bureaucracy is negatively affecting our industry, scaring off investment. That Cattlemen's Association highlighted one family-owned station in the Kimberleys who's encountered significant roadblocks when trying to install a pivot on their station, which represented well less than 1% of their station's landmass. The submission said, quote, "In order to put in a pivot, the Department of Environmental Regulation announced they had to complete a flora and fauna survey. The family waited over 6 months for a response to their application and were then referred back and forward between Department of Environmental Regulation and Department of Parks and Wildlife for no less than 2 years." I would also like to share a true story with you, though, told directly to me by wonderful people who had lived and worked on cattle stations for about 50 years. They were selling their beloved station, and they commented to me why they were selling. They said, "It's not the heat that lasts many months of the year. The isolation, the floods, the fires, the snakes, the wet and its damage, even the droughts or earthquakes, but the government red tape." They would spend long days on station tasks and responsibilities, only to have to work night after night on government paperwork, including restricting things they wanted to do to improve their station, increasing critical water, and increasing the small extent of pasture under introduced to feed, which had performed very successfully on trial. They worked more than 1,000 miles from Perth and could not afford a Perth office to handle the government paperwork for them. Indeed, what they did spend on government tape actually worked against them from investing in better safety they dearly wanted to achieve, such as a new plane for the manager, theirs was decades old, and lighting for their runway, so that the flying doctor could land at night for emergencies. While Australia lags behind, other countries such as the United States and India are leading the way with red tape reduction. President Trump is taking meaningful and important steps to reduce government red tape across many industries, including those that affect the American agricultural sector. Prime Minister Modi is also taking similar action in India, tackling India's notorious bureaucracy. Recently, for example, he has reduced the time it takes to incorporate a company from 2 to 3 months to just 24 hours. Prime Minister Modi has slashed governmental environmental restrictions on water. Government tape that, although burdensome and possibly well-meaning, did little to assist India's water problems. If this can be done in India by dedicated leadership, which has been saddled with British, USSR and Indian government tape, some of the most notorious in the world, why can't we do this in Australia, with leaders who recognise the importance of this for our cost competitiveness, for creating jobs and raising living standards, and for encouraging the investment Australia needs? While India has cut government tape and doubled its economic growth and become the leading large economy in terms of economic growth, raising the living standards of its people and enabling opportunities for their future, Australia is still struggling with excessive government tape, record debt, investment percentage down to less than anti-business, anti-investment, socialist Whitlam government times. What do you think this is doing to Australia's future and future jobs? I hope that those of you in the audience and your families on the land will join us to celebrate Australia's inaugural National Agriculture and Related Industries Day in Canberra on November the 21st. This inaugural annual day is an initiative I founded. It's being conducted with assistance from the Pastoralists and Graziers Association of West Australia, the Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association, and other rural organisations, and aims to recognise the importance of one of Australia's most important industries. I hope you have a wonderful field day. Thank you.